Tonight on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 17th of June 2025. Middle East tensions. Opposition MPs stage a walkout from parliament after the speaker refused to allocate time to debate the Israel-Iran conflict. As the conflict continues for a fifth day, the Sri Lankan embassy in Iran relocated from Tehran. Crucial review. IMF Executive Board to evaluate Sri Lanka's fourth review under the Extended Fund Facility Programme on the 1st of July, reveals visiting First Deputy Managing Director of the IMF. Cancelling pensions. Cabinet greenlights the amendment of President's Entitlements Act and the Parliamentary Pensions Law. Cabinet spokesperson hints at future amendments to the Constitution to repeal the pension entitlements of former presidents. Manufacturing expansion. Sri Lanka's Purchasing Managers Index for Manufacturing records an index value of 55.5 in May 2025, indicating an expansion in manufacturing activities.
Cine Campus Open Day, May masa 3 වෙනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට Cine Campus පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Enrolling now for the June 2025 intake and complete your degree in 2 years.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9, Sri Lanka's most trusted news source. I'm Tatyara Naika, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. We begin with your top story. Cabinet spokesperson Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa revealed that the Cabinet of Ministers has granted approval to amend the President's Entitlements Act and the Parliamentary Pensions Law with the aim of repealing the special benefits granted to former presidents and their families and cancelling the pensions provided to members of Parliament after serving a 5-year term. He further noted that steps will be taken to amend the Constitution in order to repeal the pension entitlements of former presidents as well once the proposed amendments come into effect.
The
Cabinet of Ministers has approved a proposal submitted by the Minister of Justice and National Integration to instruct the legal draftsman to draft 2 bills to repeal the President's Entitlements Act No. 4 of 1986 and the Parliamentary Pensions Law No. 1 of 1977. This aims to cancel the special benefits granted to former presidents and their families as well as the pensions awarded to members of Parliament after serving for 5 years.
මතුමා ඉදිරිපත් කළ යෝජනාවට අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩලය අනුමැතිය ලබා දුන්නා.
මේ නීතිය හිටපු ජනාධිපතිවරුන්ටත් බලපානවා.
හිටපු ජනාධිපතිලා දැන් ජීවත් වෙන
Yes, this will affect former presidents, including living former presidents currently receiving pensions. It will also abolish benefits received by the widows of deceased presidents, their staff and family members.
මෙතෙන් සිට අහිමි වෙනවා.
ඇමතුමා දැන් මේ ජනාධිපතිවරුන්ගේ විශ්‍රාමයට අහෝසි කරන්න ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාව සංශෝධනය කරන්න ඕන. ඒ සඳහා ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාව සංශෝධනය කිරීමේ සූදානමක් තියෙනවද ආණ්ඩුවට?
The Constitution only covers the President's pension. Let's first abolish the rest. Pensions for members of Parliament and the benefits received by former presidents, their families and their staff. Then we can consider the next steps.
අහෝසි කරලා ඊළඟ පියවරට යන්න බලමු.
ඔබතුමාලා කිව්වා වගේම ඔබතුමාලා ජයග්‍රහණය කරා. නමුත් ඔබගේ විග්‍රහය මොකක්ද? රජයේ මාධ්‍ය ප්‍රකාශකවරයා හැටියට මේ රහස් ඡන්දයට යාම තුල ආණ්ඩුවට නිකන් පොඩි කළු පැල්ලමක් වගේ.
ස්වාධීන අපක්ෂපාතී නිදහස සාධාරණ.
In an independent, unbiased and free election, a secret ballot is a standard and accepted practice. According to the relevant act, the decision on how the vote is to be conducted within a council lies solely with the Commissioner General of the province.
සාරිස් පුටුවේ ඉන්න ලෙදහරියාගේ අභිමතය. ඒක තමයි පනත.
ඒ වන විට පළාත් පාලන ආයතන කීයක් බලය පිටවල අවසන්ද? තව ඉදිරියට තව කීයක් පිටවන්න තියෙනවද? ඔබතුමාලගේ තොරතුරු තියෙනවා?
අපි මුල් වෙලාවේ
Initially, we established power of 151 local government institutions. As of now, we have secured control of 21 out of 27 local government bodies.
The government is expected to obtain additional funds totaling $50 million from the World Bank to implement several initiatives under the General Education Modernization Project, including the development of digital infrastructure in schools as well as the development of sanitary facilities in 900 selected schools from all provinces. Meanwhile, the Cabinet of Ministers gave the green light to draft a bill to facilitate the establishment of an Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau for the purpose of investigating aircraft accidents and related incidents. With that is a look at more decisions taken during this week's Cabinet meeting.
Sri Lanka is expected to draft the national policy for the rehabilitation of child offenders with the contribution of government, development partners as well as the United Nations Children's Fund. The legislation aims to facilitate the study of the economic and social backgrounds of children who become criminal before the law, thereby paving the way for proper rehabilitation. Government is to provide a 5,000 rupee allowance monthly for children living in the streets and children who are under institutional care or guardianship, with 1 billion rupees allocated for the purpose in the 2025 budget. Meanwhile, government is expected to obtain additional funds totaling $50 million from the World Bank to develop digital infrastructure in schools, develop sanitary facilities in 900 selected schools from all provinces, and other initiatives under the General Education Modernization Project. A water catchment management plan for the Kalani River Basin is to be prepared and implemented within the medium-term budget framework through the utilization of financing totaling 250 million rupees allocated under the Clean Sri Lanka National Initiative. Sri Lanka will see the implementation of a pilot project for concrete recycling with the utilization of 2 billion rupees allocated to the Ministry of Urban Development, Construction and Housing under the Clean Sri Lanka Initiative. The Sri Lanka Ports Authority is expected to procure 7 electric, rubber-tired gantry cranes for operations of the East Container Terminal and Jai Container Terminal of the Port of Colombo. The Sri Lanka Ports Authority is also set to procure 20 electrically operated prime movers through an international competitive procurement process with a provision of 1 billion rupees allocated from the 2025-2026 capital budget for the relevant purpose. A draft bill will be prepared to facilitate the establishment of an Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau for the purpose of investigating aircraft accidents and related incidents. In the meantime, a draft bill will be prepared for the amendment of the Protection of the Rights of Elders Act No. 9 of 2000 in order to supply necessary infrastructure facilities for the elderly. A special fixed deposit scheme will be established for senior citizens of Sri Lanka. Thereby, fixed deposits opened from the 1st of July to the 31st of December 2025 will be eligible for the fixed deposit scheme.
The first Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Geeta Gopinath, says the IMF Executive Board will evaluate Sri Lanka's 4th review under the Extended Fund Facility Programme on the 1st of July. Joining an exclusive interview on our Current Affairs programme at Hyde Park with Indira Yamwatta, she said Sri Lanka's progress over the past 2 years has been commendable. However, she emphasised that the country must stay the course and avoid policy missteps, particularly as the external environment has become more challenging. She further noted that although Sri Lanka's foreign reserves have increased, they must grow further to ensure a smooth transition to debt servicing in the years ahead.
What is your assessment of the country's progress in meeting program set benchmarks and restoring macroeconomic stability?
What we have seen in terms of recovery of the economy, in terms of the progress that's been achieved, has been remarkable. A lot has been accomplished. That doesn't mean the job is done. It is going to take time to make sure that all the reforms get done and Sri Lanka moves away from the possibility of another crisis happening. So the government should stay the course. We're in the midpoint of the program. There are 2 more years left. But even beyond the program, it's important to continue the reform agenda.
Are there signs and risks of another crisis?
At this point, again, lots of improvement that we have seen, lots of progress. We are on the path to the 4th review for Sri Lanka. July 1st is the date that we have for the board who will evaluate the review and make the decision. But again, things are looking well, they're looking good. It's important to stay the path. We should also recognize that the external environment has become much more challenging. So really no room for policy error. It is important to be really focused on getting the reforms done.
Is the IMF satisfied with the level of transparency in negotiations and the pace by Sri Lankan authorities in the process of debt restructuring? And how important is investor confidence at this stage?
Investor confidence requires macro stability. And the fact that Sri Lanka has, after 2 years, brought a fair amount of stability in its macroeconomy is a very positive sign. Now, what everybody will be watching for is to see how long this endures and whether is it only a 2-year phenomenon or is it going to be a multiple-year phenomenon, which is why it's important to stay the course in getting reforms done. In a very clear sense of what needs to be done in Sri Lanka and the importance of continuing to do the multiple reforms, be it on anti-corruption and governance, transparency, building back public trust in government institutions, addressing poverty, which is too high at 24.5%. In the case of Sri Lanka and what the external environment implies for it is, if you look at Sri Lanka's trade with the US, it's about 25% of Sri Lanka's exports. It's very important that the negotiations end well, and that has to be resolved well. One of the risks is if it doesn't accumulate enough foreign exchange reserves, it's going to complicate its re-entry into financial markets and being able to repay its debt coming due. And we certainly don't want another debt crisis in Sri Lanka anytime soon.
Amid strong objections raised by opposition parties over the use of secret ballots to elect chairpersons, local government commissioners were compelled to indefinitely adjourn 3 council sessions. Accordingly, sessions were adjourned in the Sitawakapura Urban Council, the Sitawaka Pradeshiya Sabha and the Mawatagama Pradeshiya Sabha.
The Sitawaka Pradeshiya Sabha convened this morning, chaired by Local Government Commissioner for the Western Province Sarangika Kalharijaya Sundara, to elect a new chairman. Tensions flared when the National People's Power advocated for a secret ballot while the Samagijana Balavega demanded an open vote. When the Commissioner decided on a secret ballot to elect the new chairman, councillors representing the SJB staged a walkout, leaving the council without quorum and prompting the Commissioner to adjourn the session indefinitely. Events took a similar turn when electing the chairman of the Sitawakapura Urban Council, as the SJB members staged a protest at the premises when the NPP insisted on a secret ballot. The election was ultimately postponed due to the absence of quorum following the walkout. Similarly, the election of the new chairman of the Mawatagama Pradeshiya Sabha was also postponed indefinitely. Meanwhile, the Kurunegala Municipal Council successfully concluded its leadership vote today, resulting in an unexpected victory for the NPP. Despite holding only 10 of 22 seats, NPP's Anand Sahabandhu secured 12 votes in the secret ballot, defeating SJB's Sumendra Arunashanta, who received 10 votes. A tightly contested secret ballot was also held at the Haputale Pradeshiya Sabha, where the NPP's Sudarshana Liyanage claimed the chairmanship with 11 votes over the SJB's S. Sagadevan, who received 9. The vote for vice chairman between Gopal Murugan of the Tamil Progressive Alliance and Indratilaka Ramanayaka of the SJB ended in a tie. A draw was held and Murugan was elected vice chairman. A secret ballot which was held at the Dehiyovita Pradeshiya Sabha to elect the chairman resulted in a tie with 17 votes each for the NPP's Saman Siri Veerasinghe and SLPP's Damindu Savinda, with 2 invalid votes. A draw was held and NPP's Veerasinghe was declared chairman. In the meantime, the NPP secured the chairmanship of the Vaunia South Sinhala Pradeshiya Sabha unanimously, while the vice chairmanship was awarded to the SJB. The NPP had only 7 members to the opposition's 10, but NPP's Sudarshana Chamara Veerakon secured 12 votes to become chairman. Notably, the NPP also backed SJB's Gunapalage Sarath Madhu for vice chairman. Meanwhile, in Kottagala, the chairmanship was secured by the Ceylon Workers' Congress with backing from the NPP, which did not field a candidate. The open vote resulted in the CWC candidate Rajamani Prasant being elected chair. NPP's Jesudasan Yahulamari was unanimously appointed vice chair. Similarly, in the Agarapatana Pradeshiya Sabha, the Ceylon Workers' Congress secured the chairmanship, while the NPP candidate was elected to the position of the vice chair. The SJB managed to clinch leadership of the Nellore Pradeshiya Sabha. SJB's Ajit Chandana was elected chairman, while Tilak Kumara of the People's Alliance was elected vice chair. Despite the NPP holding the largest single block with 19 out of 42 seats, the SJB succeeded in taking control of the Mavanella Pradeshiya Sabha. Putula Udagama of the SJB was elected chairman with 21 votes, securing support from a coalition of opposition parties including the UNP, SLPP and Sarvajana Balaya. The NPP candidate was only able to secure 20 votes.
සිනෙක් කැම්පස් ඕපන් ඩේ මැයි මස 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට සිනෙක් කැම්පස් පරිශ්‍රයේදී
Welcome back. Now in more local news, Minister of Foreign Affairs Vijitha Herath revealed that the Sri Lankan embassy in Iran has been moved out of Tehran in view of the continuous Israeli strikes on the Iranian capital. The measure comes as Israel continued its bombardment of the Iranian capital as the conflict between the two nations entered the fifth day. As the conflict in the Middle East escalates, the Sri Lankan government has also decided to temporarily halt Sri Lankans from departing for Israel for employment.
Israel and Iran are trading strikes on a fifth day of conflict, with civilians in flashpoint areas facing waves of attacks. Israel's strikes in recent days have killed top Iranian military commanders and scientists and targeted military infrastructure. Earlier yesterday, Israel's airstrikes on the headquarters of Iran's state television in Tehran killed 3 people with strikes captured on live TV. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the strikes have contributed to setting Iran's nuclear program back a very long time. In the meantime, in a post on his Truth Social platform yesterday, US President Donald Trump warned that everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. His comments come after Israeli officials advised residents to evacuate parts of northeastern Tehran earlier in the day, saying it planned to target military infrastructure. In his post, Trump adds that Iran should have signed the deal that he put forward in the most recent round of US-Iran nuclear talks. Meanwhile, President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio left the G7 summit a day early, with the White House citing developments in the Middle East. Meanwhile, in a strongly worded joint statement, foreign ministers of 20 Arab and Islamic countries, including Iraq, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, condemned the brutal aggression by the Israeli regime against Iran, warning of grave regional consequences if tensions continue to escalate. In the meantime, the Israeli military says it has eliminated the head of the Qatam al-An'abi, the central entity in the command chain of Iran's armed forces, in an attack on Tehran. It described Shadmani as Iran's most senior military commander and the man closest to Iranian supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz warned that supreme leader could meet the same end as Saddam Hussein. In the meantime, oil prices were driven higher today by the Iran-Israel conflict, with Brent crude rising to $74.72 a barrel, while US WTI prices rose to $73.03. Major oil and gas infrastructure and flows have so far been spared from substantial impact. However, 2 oil tankers collided and caught fire today near the Strait of Hormuz, highlighting the risks to companies moving oil and fuel supplies in the region. Meanwhile, in Sri Lanka, the government urged the public not to be misled by claims of a purported fuel shortage in the country, caused by the rising tensions in the Middle East.
People from several areas of the country have been misled by social media posts and are panicking and forming unnecessary fuel queues. The Ministry of Energy and the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation have clearly stated that the country possesses adequate oil reserves for the next 2 months. There's nothing to worry about. 160,000 metric tons of crude oil are in stores. We are due to receive another 90,000 metric tons of crude oil. Additionally, 4 shipments of crude oil have been ordered as per long-term agreements. We have received orders for 246,200 metric tons of 92-octane petrol, 5,000 metric tons of 95-octane petrol, 193,250 metric tons of auto diesel, and 10,500 metric tons of super diesel. I would like to urge the public not to panic and line up for fuel, causing unnecessary chaos in society.
Meanwhile, in Parliament, Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath revealed measures taken to ensure safety of Sri Lankans residing in Israel and Iran.
4 Sri Lankans who are employed in Israel have been injured by the attacks. 3 of them have not suffered any critical injuries. 1 person is critically injured due to a glass falling onto his foot. A short while ago, we removed the Iranian embassy of Sri Lanka from Tehran due to the continuous attacks on Tehran. The neighborhood of the embassy has also been attacked. A total of 8 Sri Lankans are there, including the embassy staff and several Sri Lankan students gathered there.
A group of opposition MPs, including members of the Samagi Jana Balawega, walked out of Parliament this morning in protest, claiming that the Speaker was not allowing the opposition members to express their views on how the Iran-Israel conflict could impact Sri Lanka. They accused the Speaker of suppressing democratic discourse by denying them time to raise urgent national concerns.
ගරු ගාන්ත කරුණාතුමන්තුමා.
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි මේ මොහොතේ ඉතාම වැදගත් සංවේදී කාරණාවක් පිළිබඳව මේ සභාවේ
ඔබතුමාගේ පොයින්ට්
මේ සභාවෙත් රජයේ අවධානය පිණිස එක මිනිත්තු එකමාරක් මම ඔබතුමාගෙන් ඉල්ලනවා විපක්ෂය වෙනුවෙන්.
පොයින්ට් ඔෆ් ඕඩර් එක මොකද්ද පොයින්ට්?
මේක මේ අර්ජන්ට් මැටර් එකක් රටට බලපාන එකක්. විනාඩියක් දෙන්න ඔබතුමාට තේරෙයි එතකොට.
නෑ ඔබතුමානේ
කතානායකතුමනි රටට බලපාන සභාව දැනගත යුතු කාරණයක් ගැන අවධානය යොමු කිරීමක්.
මොෂන් එකකින් ගේන්න පුළුවන් ගරු මන්ත්‍රීතුමා.
මිනිත්තුවක් දෙන්න දැන් මේ සභාව පටන් ගන්න මට දුන්නා නම් දැන් ඉවරයි. දුන්නා නම් ඉවරයි දැන්.
නෑ මේ ඒක ඊට පස්සේ මේක ඊට පස්සේ වාද විවාද
විනාඩියක් දෙන්න කතානායකතුමනි. අපි ත්‍රස්තවාදයේ නිසා
ගරු
මේ බැටකාපු
ගරු වාචික පිළිතුරු අපේක්ෂා කරන ප්‍රශ්න ඇසීමට පාර්ලිමේන්තුව තමා මේ ක්‍රමයට යන්න ඕන.
මට අවසරයක් තියෙනවද ඔබතුමාට ආමන්ත්‍රණය කරන්න?
දැන්ට ඔබතුමාට මීට අද ඊට කාරණාට අදාළ නෙවෙයිනේ.
නෑ මේ කාරණාට අදාළව නෙවෙයි. මට ඔබතුමාව ආමන්ත්‍රණය කරන්න විපක්ෂ නායකවරයා හැටියට අවස්ථාවක් තියෙනවා.
ඔබතුමාට විශේෂ කාරණාවක් තියෙනවද කතා කරන්න?
ඒක තමයි මම ඔබතුමාගෙන් අවසරය ඉල්ලන්නේ විශේෂ කාරණාවක් මතු කරන්න. ගරු කතානායකතුමනි
මේ අවස්ථාවේදී
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි මේක ජාතික වශයෙන් වැදගත්
ගරු ඔබතුමාට මේ අවස්ථාවේ ගරු සිවඥානම් සීදරන් මන්ත්‍රීතුමා ඔබතුමාට 27 දෙකෙන් අහන්න පුළුවන්. 27 දෙකෙන් නෑ 27 දෙකෙන් නෑ ගරු මන්ත්‍රීතුමා නෑ 27 දෙකෙන් අහන්න පුළුවන්. විශේෂ ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා අහන්න පුළුවන් ඔබතුමාට අහන්න පුළුවන්. ගරු මන්ත්‍රීතුමා
Any MP has the right to express views on the Israel-Iran issue. The opposition was given 2 opportunities to do so. It was up to them to decide the most timely issue to raise. Instead of using these chances, they chose to spark a debate. Speaker, please take note that while reasons could have been presented fairly, their behavior today was unacceptable.
මේ ප්‍රශ්නෙට ඔබතුමාට විනාඩියක් එකමාරක්
ඔබතුමා ප්‍රශ්න
කරන්නට අවස්ථාව ලබා දෙන්න.
ප්‍රශ්න මතු කරන්න
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි
The escalating Israel-Iran conflict is a serious concern. There are an estimated 10,000 to 20,000 Sri Lankans in Israel. The government has a duty to inform Parliament of their status without waiting for a question to be raised. We as the opposition are not here to speak nonsense. If we are not allowed to express our views democratically, we will no longer remain in this house.
මේ අදහස් ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නට අපිට ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදීව කටයුතු කරන්නට අපිට තවදුරටත් මේ සභාවේ රැඳී ඉන්නට බෑ.
දවසේදී මං හිතන්නේ ප්‍රධාන විපක්ෂයේ කණ්ඩායම සභාවෙන් පිටතට ගියත් අපේ
Though the main opposition left the chamber, our party leader MP Sridharan and I remained as we have many pressing issues in our constituencies.
මොකද අපිට අපේ දිස්ත්‍රික්කවල විශාල ගැටලු ප්‍රමාණයක් තියෙනවා අපිට කතා කරන්න.
Meanwhile, Deputy Opposition Whip Ajit P. Pereira announced that the opposition intends to lodge formal complaints with both the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and the Inter-Parliamentary Union concerning the Speaker's conduct during today's parliamentary session. Addressing the media following their walkout from Parliament, opposition representatives accused the Speaker of behaving in a manner that undermines democratic principles.
We have contributed to the functioning of Parliament both as members of the government and as part of the opposition. However, in recent times, parliamentary proceedings have increasingly taken place without the meaningful participation of the opposition, an unprecedented development in our democratic history. In protest against the Speaker's conduct and in deep dismay over the erosion of parliamentary norms, we chose to withdraw from today's session. Just because they hold a majority, it is wrong to suppress the opposition in this manner. It goes against democratic principles. We have decided to lodge a complaint with the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and the Inter-Parliamentary Union regarding the Speaker's conduct.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුව කියන්නේ ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණේ විධායක සභාව හෝ ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණේ පොලිට් බියුරෝ එක නෙමෙයි.
Parliament is not the executive committee or Politburo of the JVP. Parliament follows a more democratic system than that. It is disheartening to see someone leading Parliament who does not respect democracy. This is what happens when someone unfamiliar with the history and responsibilities of the Speaker's role is appointed to such a position. I challenge anyone to name a speaker like this in the history of Sri Lanka. However, the incumbent deputy speaker is much better than the speaker.
වර්තමානයේ ඉන්න නියෝජ්‍ය කතානායක මේ කතානායක වැඩියට 100ට 1000 ගුණයක් හොඳයි.
Welcome back. Taking you to business news, Sri Lanka's Purchasing Managers Index for May 2025 recorded growth in both manufacturing and services sectors. According to the latest report of the Central Bank, the manufacturing PMI climbed to 55.5 in May, while the services PMI reached 57. All sub-indices of the manufacturing PMI rebounded above the neutral threshold during the month, indicating a recovery from the seasonal slowdown recorded in April 2025. The industry expectations for the next 3 months remain positive, anticipating a gradual increase in demand. The expansion in the services PMI was driven by improvements observed across most of the sectors. New businesses increased in May 2025, primarily due to the expansion observed in the financial services. The Colombo Bourse closed in negative territory today as a result of price losses in counters such as National Development Bank, LOLC Finance and DFCC Bank. The benchmark all-share price index dropped 0.45% lower to settle at 17,281.95. Meanwhile, the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 decreased by 0.07% to close at 5,151.74. Market turnover crossed 6.8 billion rupees. The capital goods sector was the top contributor to turnover, followed by the banking sector. Foreign participation in market activity remained at subdued levels, with foreigners closing as net sellers, offloading shares worth 490 million rupees. In the forex market, the Sri Lankan rupee depreciated against the US dollar, closing at 300 rupees compared to the previously seen rate of 299.4 against the USD. Meanwhile, overnight liquidity in the banking system contracted to 122.9 billion from 131.9 billion rupees in the previous session. With that, here's a look at today's exchange rates. Enrollment of students for 3 newly introduced media courses by the Mogo Media Academy was held yesterday. Scholars at the Mogo Media Academy will receive both theoretical knowledge and practical training from experienced Sri Lankan media professionals.
The Mogo Media Academy has introduced 3 new diploma courses: Television Program Production Technology, Television Post-Production Technology, and Journalism and News Production Technology. Enrollment of students for the courses took place yesterday at the Imagine Auditorium at the Derana headquarters.
We established an animation division 4 or 5 years ago. Our intention was to produce an animated film. We did not possess people with the technical knowledge to produce an animated film of international standard. We established the Mogo Media Academy with the intention of bridging that gap. We only enroll a limited number of students for the course because by the end of the diploma, we intend to equip them with the knowledge to produce creations of international standard. There are many media courses in Sri Lanka, but they do not develop professionals who are equipped with the knowledge to create quality productions. That is why Derana established these standardized courses to develop professionals equipped with the practical training and theoretical knowledge.
30 scholars were enrolled for the 1-year diploma courses and they will begin their lectures this Saturday. The lectures will be conducted by experienced Sri Lankan media professionals.
That's all for tonight from Fest at 9. Thank you. Have a great night.